Hey y'all, Rick Rex here, back with another one for you. And today we're taking a look into the brand new artifact, the Heart of Isis. Now we're going to break this one all the way down and see what it's made of and figure out if this is something that we should be running or something we should just add to the collection and put it on the bench. But first, if you like what you see and you want more, hit that like and subscribe button to help keep the channel growing and also to not miss one single update as they drop. Time for a little hype. Alright, so the Heart of Isis. Now, we really have three major questions here for this one. And the first is it going to change the meta? That's the biggest thing on all of our minds, right? Well, I don't think there's any need for a build-up here. The answer on that is a definitive yes. It just depends on how. Now, the second one is where are we going to have to level this thing for it to become effective? And the answer there is pretty cloudy right now, so it's really TBD. But I will say the abilities on test right now are going to be in flux, so they could go up, could go down on damage, effect, buffs. I mean, there's no real way to tell. But I can already see that this is going to be a game changer in how it acts and how it's performed. And yeah, you don't hear me say it very much, but I'm impressed. Now, the third is, what are we going to swap this one out for? Well, my initial gut is to pair this one with a Trans-Strat combo, but it's really yet to be seen. Some pretty in-depth study needs to go into it, and once they finish it up and we get it done on test, we'll really kind of see how it's going to fit in, or rather, what we're going to pair with this one. Now, I can tell you this is going to be the go-to, and we're really going to be looking at nothing but support artifacts for this one from here on out. Okay, so how does this thing work? Well, it puts in a new supercharge or an ability that is actually spammable and repeatable. So it's not an every 60 second or 30 second cooldown, it's actually a 3-second cooldown. Now, it's not just one supercharge, by the way, it's actually 7 different abilities. Now, each one does its own buff along with the damage to make this pretty much the craziest thing I think I've ever seen. Now, each supercharged throne actually only costs 1,000 supercharge, so yes, this will become part of a rotation. So what are the abilities? They actually spell out the word Shazam, and that is S is the Wisdom of Solomon, H is the Strength of Hercules, A is the Stamina of Atlas, Z is the Power of Zeus, A is Courage of Achilles, M is the Speed of Mercury, and the exclamation point is the Word of Power with a little small buff attached to it. Okay, so for the ability breakdowns, we'll start with the Wisdom of Solomon. And this knows exactly what your role needs. So it's an intuitive ability, which hopefully this does not get broken all the time, but I guess we'll see. For Trollers, it increases Vitalization for 10%, Healers increase crit chance by 10%, Tanks, you get an increase in HP by 10%, and your damage rolls get increased critical chance and critical attack damage for 10% and 5% respectively, and that will bump after the artifact is leveled. So for the Strength of Hercules, this is actually giving us an ability that we're somewhat familiar with in melee rotations, but it unleashes the Strength of Hercules by rushing towards your target and dealing it heavy damage. Now it does damage to a single target in a small cone. Now, role-specific functions, which unlocks at level 100. For your tank, it pulls nearby enemies and staggers them so they're not all on top of you. Your DPSs, you get a bleed or a dot for 10 seconds, which should be pretty decent damage. Your healers get removal of dash and add regen to 8 targets. And then your controllers get a weaker dot or a bleed, plus you get a defense debuff to your target as well. Now for the Stamina of Atlas, this ability actually doesn't cost any supercharge at all. Now you endure with the Stamina of Atlas by gaining a temporary 70% damage reduction shield, and on the next update, we're going to rework the tank shield, but its basis is going to be a standard formula that is a 50% damage mitigation. DPSs get a shield form based on a percentage of might and prec instead of resto and dom for 70% mitigation as well. So again, that's going to reconfigure how we actually look at shields. Healers get a 4-player shield with hot ticks for 6 seconds and 50% damage mitigation. And controllers get a self and lowest hit point shield and pot ticks for 6 seconds at 70% mitigation. So you get heals over time for the healer with a 4-player shield, and then you get a 2-person shield on controllers with power over time for 6 seconds. And again, those are going to be a 70% mitigation and a 50% mitigation. That is pretty awesome and is really going to allow us to get through some elite things that would have ordinarily been a struggle with this ability. And the power of ZEUS. Now, this shocks all surrounding enemies with the power of ZEUS and then teleports a short distance backwards, so kind of the opposite of the previous ability that allows us to actually get out of trouble. But with the power of ZEUS, the player is sent back away from the target to a safe distance to resume doing damage in a safe manner. Now, on our next update with this, your tank self-heal based on a percentage of damage, so that means you will get self-heals as a tank regardless of your power. Healers, damage then AoE heal based on damage done. So that means that you actually have a combo power here that's going to do some damage and then also gives you an AoE heal based on that damage that you do. And controllers, it applies damage done in a debuff to the target. So whatever your damage is, there's going to be a formula that will actually apply that debuff to your targets, which really kind of cool, but it's also going to be an AoE. For the Courage of Achilles, this unleashes a damaging cone on enemies and inspire all group members' secondary stats with the Courage of Achilles. And these buffs are a 10% resto, 10% dom, 10% vite to all allies. So that means everybody's going to get a buff on these, which is incredible. Now for the Speed of Mercury. And this one's not a supercharge once again, but you gain the Speed of Mercury, moving nearly the same speed in combat as out of combat. Now the player gains movement speed, ability cost reduction, and combat slowdown is reduced all the way down to 0.2 milliseconds. So pretty awesome. This is something that we've really kind of wanted for a long time, and we're actually getting a piece of it in game. And last but not least, the exclamation point. Now this is word of power with a buff attached to it. Damage increases all across the board by 8% in buffs, and then incrementally 3 to 5%. Now, under controller role, this actually gives everyone a 25% increase in power N for 10 seconds. And healers give everyone a healing N increase for 10 seconds of 25% as well. Now, tank roll, this actually gives everyone 15% of the tank's health for 20 seconds. So again, keying into survivability. In your DPS rolls, this actually gives everyone an 8% crit damage and then a 15% crit chance buff for 10 seconds. Upcoming, you'll see a small damage increase in the incremental rise in the artifact, and then also your range will be increased by about 5 meters as well for your powers. So that is also pretty awesome. That's going to solve a lot of things that happen in rotations where we're limited by mid-range. So I'm loving that. Okay, so how does this thing even level? At rank 80, it gives us the 7 letters of Shazam. So that gains access to the full library of the 7 letters of Shazam, transforming and empowering the Word of Power ability into 7 potent abilities to unleash the power of Shazam upon your foes. At rank 120, it empowers the strength of Hercules, which gives it that bump. At rank 160, it empowers the power of ZEUS and the stamina of Atlas. At rank 180, empowers the courage of Achilles. And at rank 200, it empowers your exclamation point and the wisdom of Solomon. So again, nice round track. I'm not really sure if this one is just going to be unusable until we hit 160, 180, 200 like artifacts have been in the past, but it looks like this one is actually doing some pretty decent stuff even without leveling it all the way to 200. So I'm really kind of liking that, and hopefully that stays the way that it is. So really, with all the complications on the actual artifact itself, the transition that happens in between the supercharges changing and the ability changing is kind of complicated, but to know where you are in the loadout, I wanted to show you right quick those supercharge icons. So we saw earlier in the breakdown what powers are what, but it actually literally spells out Shazam with an exclamation point on it, so you know where you're at in your rotation. But this one is going to take some getting used to, and to be honest, we're probably going to get lost a time or two there. Okay, that was a lot of talking and a lot of explaining. I told you this one was going to be kind of complicated, and it sure is, man. It's in depth. But with all that being said, let's go on ahead and check it out in action and see what it actually looks like on the test dummies. Alright, so to wrap this one up and put a bow on it, once again, once this one is done being worked on, we'll actually see how OP it's actually going to end up, but this one is going to be a beast for all roles, no matter what. And yes, 100% I'll get behind it and say this one is going to be worth it. So get ready to work those loadouts, because it's coming, and that means that I got to get to work on quite a few other things. Thank y'all. I appreciate you joining and learning about this artifact with us. And once again, if you like what you see and you want more, hit that like and subscribe button to help keep the channel growing, and also to not miss one single update as they drop. I'll see y'all next time.